Alright, guys. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I read up through page 9. So, I guess I called it page 4.3. I don't know what I was writing, but basically I read part of page 5 yesterday, and then the rest of page 5 today through page 9. And so it's still the first chapter, and they start talking about what's called, the process of domestication of humans. And so he goes into explaining, how we start looking for a reward as we're growing up, as we're learning, as we're being trained in all these so-called agreements. We learn and, develop belief systems of our own based on what we're taught. And the way that we're taught is initially through a form of reward and punishment. And then that leads us to go from, seeking basically seeking to avoid punishment and to avoid not receiving a reward. And then from there, the reward goes into just talking about like social, like human relationships. And so we kind of start tying this concept of reward into relationships. And the reward becomes, the attention in the relationships. But then we also still have all these beliefs that we've been taught that are kind of ingrained into us at a certain point too. I'm curious to know how similar or different this is from attachment theory in psychology. I'm also curious to know how I'm pretty curious to know how just kind of how people, I guess, would address this idea of beliefs and relationships and some form of compatibility, kind of forming social circles and things like that. I don't know if it's going to go into that because I kind of stopped through page 9, so I guess we'll have to find out. I don't have a whole lot of deep thoughts on this morning. That's kind of just where my head goes about it. Just a quick and simple, set of ideas. But, what kind of comes to mind, mostly is when they talk about things like faith, belief systems, religions, television, learning kind of like terminology and stuff like that. maybe this has nothing to really do with it, but maybe it does. The more I start studying about cults, because they're so extreme, the more I can kind of dissect kind of some kind of religious programming and all different types of programming, not just religious. I'd say education in general, the educational system. Like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone on Bad Queers podcast where I first heard them mentioning, dude, what? There's this dog. I don't know where this dog is. It's loud. But anyways, there is this, the cults and the, I guess kind of, the different types of belief systems that people have, like the education system, and then they were saying that, most of school textbooks, I think it was maybe public school textbooks, but most of school textbooks are by McGraw-Hill or whatever company. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think most of my textbooks when I was growing up were from that company. And I believe they say it's based in Texas. And when you think of it, it's like, okay, there's a system set up to take standardized testing. And the standardized testing, scores kind of determines how the school gets rated and labeled. And you're learning from these books that the majority of them are from a certain place. And you're set up with this curriculum to help you pass these tests. You're supposed to be teaching to the test. And it's like, okay, does that seem like actual education? Or does it sound like programming? And when you start learning more, I started learning more later on in life, like researching stuff for myself. Like, I'd say in my youth and in my teens, because I was raised in a religion, I was very much into studying religion. Not just the religion I grew up in, but a lot of different religious related things, spirituality and all kinds of stuff like that. I was never really all that into like television after a certain point. Like, there's a lot of mainstream stuff that just doesn't appeal to me. I'm not trying to be like rebellious about it or like, oh, I need to be so different, but it's not like that. It's just, I really just literally don't care about any of that information. Like, none of it appeals to me. Like, I hate commercials. I hate, the structure of how things are. I feel like commercials like break my attention way too much, and I just want to watch the show. Now, I'm not saying I don't watch shows or movies or anything. I like YouTube, I like Netflix. I pay for YouTube Premium so I don't have to hear ads and all this kind of stuff. And I like Netflix because Netflix is cool. It's movies, shows. But I kind of tend to stay away from Netflix a little more than I do YouTube. Like, I try to watch a movie every day. I try. Sometimes, and it's almost like I force myself to do it just so I'm not so disconnected from, like, everything, and I'll go on YouTube and watch some stuff that's, like, about popular opinions and things. But a lot of that, honestly, is forced. A lot of that kind of stuff I do not care to listen to or watch or think about or remember or care for or spend energy with. I just don't care about any of it. Like, nothing of it actually genuinely interests me for the most part. So, I like YouTube because I can type in what I actually want to know and not just have a certain category where it's like, these are the categories of channels to choose from, and this is what's coming on at what time. Pick if you want to watch any of it at what time, you know, like, you know, pick when you want to be available, pick when you want to be ready to watch this, or save it and watch it later. Like, to me, it's just too much little distractions, and, you know, it's like too much information. Like, to me, it's overwhelming and overstimulating. Like, maybe because I got used to kind of like, you know, looking for what I'm interested in and trying to like learn about that information on my own. That's kind of my style of entertainment, is like, what's on my mind that I want to kind of know about, and then just go look for it in a book or whatever. And I already know that books and YouTube and all this stuff, these are other people's ideas. So I like to hear other people's ideas that are kind of similar maybe to how I'm thinking, but that expand on it. And then I like to hear alternative ideas that are not necessarily how I would look at it, and see kind of what I think about that. And I've kind of been that way for a while, with a lot of things. And so I find it really difficult to really care about a lot of things. Like, I find it overwhelming to have to deal with televisions and all these kind of things. Like, to me, it's just like a distraction. Like, I find it hard, you know, my parents want to have dinner or lunch or something, and then they go in and they turn on the TV in the living room, and it's like, you know, like, I don't need the TV on. Like, I don't want it on, you know what I mean? It's like, I just wanted to sit here and eat, you know? Even if it's quiet, I don't really care. I don't mind silence. Like, yeah, it's awkward. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I'd rather have awkward and uncomfortable silence than background noise of stuff that I don't want to hear about or know about or learn about, or just something distracting my thoughts too much. Like, I'd rather just have silence, honestly. Like, it's fine to have nothing to say. It's fine to not want to share anything with each other. That's perfectly fine. I'd rather just deal with that discomfort, honestly. And yeah, like, it's pretty, I guess, kind of tempting to maybe look at how it is that we think for ourselves. I think in this country, in Western society today, it's really hard to do. I always found it interesting when you listen to or watch like video footage, like old video footage or audio footage of like the 50s and like a little bit before that, like kind of before people started having TVs too much, and you kind of listen to people talking, and the things that they say. And a lot of times you kind of hear people like say stuff, you know, they'll be like talking about an idea or something, and you kind of notice the way people talk today versus the way people used to talk back then. Like, I think I've talked about this before. Like, you kind of notice how they are, how they word things, and you start noticing, you know, there's a lot of cliche sayings nowadays. Like, nowadays, like, people don't really, like, express themselves very individually. They kind of have this way of just, like, stating something, you know? I often use this example that, you know, one of my friends once was telling me, I don't know if I think it was like a loss in her family or something. It was like a coworker friend. Like, you know how it's like you can be friendly with a coworker, but you're not like necessarily hanging out outside of work, but like we would text off and on, or like talk at work during breaks or lunch a little bit or something if we were like just the two of us. But you know, we didn't like hang out. Like I hung out with people from work, but like they were never fully like hanging out with me and all the others, you know. When we actually went out and stuff, this person didn't want to join or couldn't join or whatever. But, you know, I would say, you know, we were coworker friends, you know, we were friendly, we got along good. And so I would talk to them. I would, you know, like I wasn't perfect. Like like I was getting to know them and stuff too, but, you know, we had a good, you know, relationship, friendship at work. And I remember once they were talking to me about a loss that they had. Like, I don't know if it was a family member, I can't remember the details, but it was something that was, you know, just something that they decided to share with me, like, oh, I lost this person in my life, or like something. And I was like, you know, I don't remember what I said. I don't remember at all what I said. But all they said back to me was kind of like, wow, thank you for the message that you sent back to me. And like, I feel like you actually took time to like write a message, and everybody else was kind of just saying the same, like, oh, like, sorry for your loss, like, my condolences, like, that kind of thing. Like, there was, I guess, not like anything like unique in the way that people were approaching her situation. They were kind of like saying kind of like what everybody else says. And I was kind of feeling like, okay, like, because I remember specifically when I was writing that message to them, I was like, how do I actually feel about this situation, you know? And I kind of just said, I don't know what I said, but say I said something like, well, I know that I don't know this person, and, you know, thanks for sharing that part of your life with me, because I know we don't really talk. It's not easy to like talk about like if there's something negative going on or whatever. I don't know what I said, but I said something that, you know, they were like, you know, I could tell you actually cared about how you were responding. And I was like, I did care, you know, and that was my whole point, was to try to show that I cared by what I was saying, even though I was like, well, and it was real. I was like, I don't know this person that they lost. I've never met this person, you know. I don't, you know, it's a coworker. Like, I don't really know, like, where's, like, what they are expecting from me as far as, like, what is the best response I could give to be supportive to them, because, like, we don't really know each other like that too good. Like, we're not like super close personal friends outside of work. And I was like, you know, I know it's professional, like, but, you know, that they are also like a friend, you know, but it's like, I know we've kind of got like this professional friendship kind of thing. And, you know, I wasn't trying to be too overwhelming or whatever, but it was like, I was just trying to express that, like kind of like, thanks for telling me, I hope you're okay, you know, I hope you and your family are okay. And just so they know, you know, I care about them, and if they want to talk about it, I'm there. But also, I know that, like, maybe they don't, maybe it would be awkward, maybe, you know, they don't feel like talking about it. But I was grateful that they took the time to share what was going on. And I don't know what I said. I really don't know what I said. Like, I could probably go back through the notes, through my messages, and look it up, but I really don't remember what I said to this person. But I do remember, like, the experience, and I do remember that they were, able to, you know, tell that I cared just from a message I sent. And that was the whole point, you know, of replying to that message. my point wasn't just to say something, say something, you know. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with saying like the cliche kind of stuff, but it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like when I've had experiences in my life, when people say something just cliche, I'm like, do you even care? You know, like, like it's like, okay, like, sometimes it's, I don't know. Sometimes it's like you can tell that people might not put in an effort, and it's fine. Like, people don't have to always be like putting in like deep effort into like responding to messages and things. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, I think it has become more common to, not really put in a lot of effort into communication, and to just let it become like cliche sayings and like just this disconnection from actually like interacting with people, and then also using all the kind of programmed language and the programmed way of thinking, because we're not, like, we don't have to be programmed, basically. But yeah, like, I mean, everybody jokes and is like, oh, like, I've heard it more now than almost ever. Like, The Matrix was a very popular movie, very popular series, but the first one especially was like super popular, and I remember going to see it and being like blown away. And it also was complex, so I didn't like fully understand it when I first saw it, but I just knew it had a lot of depth to it. And I was like, whoa, this is intense, I knew it was something intense and like realistic and futuristic, but kind of like the beginning of like that time period, like the now. Like, I think the first time something hit me about like how much programming kind of really goes on is when it comes to what's it called? If you guys remember Y2K, there was something about that time period that I realized, that I was like, wait, what would really happen if everything got disconnected? Like, why is that an issue? Like there would be benefits to it as well, but it's like, they're like, oh, the banks will set back, like all the numbers will set back, therefore our banks won't work and we won't get our money. If we don't have our money, we can't eat, we can't buy stuff, we can't, do stuff the way we used to, You could work and not get paid, and stuff like that. And, you're going to struggle to survive more because we're so reliant on the system. And that was probably the first time that it hit me, that I was like, do I really want to rely on this system that much? Because what am I really getting out of it? Comfort, comfort and ease and predictability. I don't have to wake up every day and go figure out what I'm going to go hunt or pick or dig or create like that. Like, I mean, we all have to put in effort and work, but it's in a different way. I'm not relying on nature. I mean, I am more indirectly. It's directly, but it's more indirectly. Like if there were droughts and floods and all that, like, we definitely notice a difference, in things, like as far as like how much food costs and all that kind of stuff. But even just, quality of life and everything is like, you know, like we're kind of expected to always want to be leveling up and everything, and that's fine. And I know too, like nowadays, it's like you kind of have to do it, even if you don't want to, because otherwise you're not going to be able to afford to live. Like, you kind of have to make those decisions now, versus before it was a little more optional. You can make a little less money and not have to really worry too much. But yeah, right now that's not really the case. And I do hear people talking a lot about the Matrix, plugging in or unplugging from the Matrix. And it's like, I find myself oftentimes in a day just like I don't know, it's like it's really hard to describe, but it's like when people say, I felt disconnected from reality. Like, I guess I get into flow states very often and very easily in my day. Like, I like to just delve into something. Like, I'll get something on my mind and I'm like, I want to know a lot about this. Like, this is really interesting to me. And I'll start researching stuff, or I'll start listening to music, or I'll start watching a video, or just sitting and like thinking in my own thoughts about something, and just kind of trying to, look at different angles of stuff when I really want to think on something. And I'll get in that kind of mindset, and then, it'll be like a long time that I'll be in there, and like, I don't think that's bad, but I do kind of notice myself going like, I can kind of tell the difference between like the programmed world and then like the world that I'm kind of like, passively, like I'm in and I've stepped back from it, and I'm like in it, but I'm kind of actually thinking for myself and doing things for myself and doing what I actually want to do, but I feel like a lot of people don't do that. They stay connected to this programmed phase for a really long time, like days, hours on end, and they never step out from it. And I don't know, I find it really hard to connect with people who are like that, who are just like constantly glued, to something. Like I always find it interesting, and it's not, I don't know, I don't want to be, because I do it too, but like, and sometimes it depends on like the clothing that you wear. But if you think about the last time you went out to dinner, and you're out to dinner with your friends or family or whatever, or even at home eating, and I'm saying, like, sometimes you wear clothes where you're like sitting, let's think about cell phones, and sometimes you wear clothes where you're sitting with your phone in your back pocket, so you're going to take it out of your pocket when you sit at a table, and you'll put it on the table. But I started noticing this, that, when I go out with my friends, almost everybody takes their phone out of their pocket and puts it on the table face up, right? Now, why? Why? Like, we're all there in the room together. Why do they need their phones out, face up, right? It's like, I get it. A lot of people have partners. Some people have kids. But you can't eat a meal without checking your phone, without having to have it open, or to be able to see notifications, or to check to see if there's notifications. Most people cannot do that. Most people bring their phone to the dinner table. Most people bring their phone with them, in the house, which is fine, But also, it's like when you think about it, like I do think about, okay, like if I go in the bathroom and I'm like gonna be a while, like sometimes I want to watch something or like read a quick email or something, you know, or when I go places, I want to, you know, um, have the phone with me when I leave the house. But I don't know, the level of like noise and distraction and things that people are used to, and I'm not used to all that level. Like I definitely step outside of it multiple times a day, or need to, and sometimes I don't. Some days I don't. Some days I'll stay in it, and that's when I notice that I'm like really anxious and stressed out. So I've learned to kind of like step away because it helps me to step away. I have days like yesterday where I was doing like a meditation every hour. I'll probably do that today too. I find that kind of thing helpful though, it's like, why wouldn't I want to do that? Why wouldn't I want to disconnect? I find it just, if I didn't have hobbies like podcasting and that kind of thing, like online stores and those types of things, I would probably want to have more full days where I'm not online. But because I don't have that, I do go online, but I do try to make it at least a little bit productive, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of all I really have to think on, like on that note, like I don't think I'm better than anybody. I just, find it frustrating that everyone's seems kind of like locked into a system that I don't want to be locked into. And I only know like a select few people who don't want to lock into it. Like I've often said this, like I don't think I could live with somebody who has a television. I don't think I could marry a person who has a TV. Like to me, it's just not something that I'm super okay with, I guess. And it's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, I've had to get comfortable with disconnecting from it or staying disconnected from it. But yeah, it can be a bit of a challenge. But anyways, I'm gonna get on with my morning. It's 9:30 a.m. Have a good Sunday.